I'm Rachel Madel from Talking with Tech.
And I'm Chris Bouguet from Talking with Tech.
We have a podcast dedicated to augmentative and alternative communication, all things related to helping kids with complex communication needs.
If you have a passion for helping people with language disabilities, this is the show for you. Each episode features an interview or a roundtable discussion on a topic related to augmentative communication and helping people with language disabilities.
And we're really passionate about giving practical strategies to clinicians working in the field who are working with children or adults, anything related to AAC.
So you can look us up on iTunes, or you can find us on Facebook. We got a group over there, or check out our website at bit.ly/TWT podcast.
Please join our community of professionals that are working to ensure that everyone can say whatever they want to say, however they want to say it.
Please listen carefully.
What is communication?
An essential behavior of life. We have the both blessing and responsibility of trying to foster another.
It's the strongest way for two people to convey information to each other.
Communication is a lifeline.
It's just connection with other people.
Connecting people in terms of ideas, thoughts, or needs.
Draws us out of ourselves, draws us into that relationship, builds up our families. Without it, we'd be lost.
Whatever it is that we do to express intent and achieve an impact.
Communication is the ability to express your needs, wants, frustrations, and desires to anyone that you feel needs to have that information.
Welcome back to Speech Science episode 83. We are proud members of the Exceptional Podcast Network. I'm your host, Matt Hott, back from being sick, joined, as always, by my friend out in Philly, Michael McLeod.
What's up, buddy?
And we are going doubles tonight. Michelle is taking care of a few things on the homestead, but we figured we needed to get a show back up and out to you guys. Holy cow, has it been a while. We dropped the episode while I was down in Disney during the about 35, 40 days ago, and then I caught the Disney plague, Mike.
Oh man, that's not good, man. That's a lot of magical. It's a magical plague.
Oh my gosh, it was a magical plague that took almost 14 days of antibiotics and 10 days of steroids. I figured I should have just went to the gym and pumped iron on all those days of steroids, but my gosh.
Well,
I'm happy to be back.
We could not do the show without you, man. You are the heart and soul. So we waited. I know a lot of our audience and our fans out there were really upset and they were clamoring for a new episode, but here we are, and we only produce quality content.
Oh, that is a good point. And before we jump into the show, we want to hear from you, so we want to tell you how to find us. Head on over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com. That'll link you to all of our friends over at the XPN Network. Also, you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/speechsciencepodcast, or give us a phone call, 614-681-1798. Email us, speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com, or Michael may interact with you personally on the social side. How do they find us on Instagram?
Our Instagram is quite active these days. You can find us at speech_science, and you can tag your pictures with the hashtag SSPod. We'll find that and we'll repost it for you.
Now, if you are one of the people that have emailed us, we got a couple emails over the break. No one asking how I'm doing, probably because no one knew how I was. So I'll just accept that, I guess. But the first one coming from I'm going to mispronounce the name, so I apologize ahead of time. Dr. Simone Hughes from California wrote in about our LGBTQ competency conversation we had a couple weeks ago, and said that she agrees with us, that however, she does feel that she wished that we would have taken a harder stance on the ethical side of it. And you know what? I can't disagree. And I apologize to her in email if we came out not hardcore on the ethical side, but she does make a point. We don't get to decide based off of our ethics not to treat somebody because we don't agree with them.
Absolutely. I could not agree more.
So
that's a great email. I'm very glad she sent that and raised that, because, sometimes us as hosts, just because we're hosts doesn't mean we're experts. And especially today, we're really representing our field so well today, representing the top 2%, you and me.
Oh my gosh. But no, and you make a good point, Michael. Sometimes we say something on here and we think that we are saying it the right way, and it comes out the wrong way, and then it lives for infamy on the podcast downloads on speechsciencepodcast.com. Our other email came in from Austin Foster. He lives in Birmingham, Alabama, and he attended the University of Nebraska for a semester and a few other places, and he just wanted to reach out and say he's grateful for us, and he loves working in the field of an SLP. So there you go. He's got a voice and vocal pedagogy. So that is what he is interested in. So welcome to the 3% of SLPs being male.
I thought it was 2.
It's like 2.8. I'm rounding up, man.
Oh, well.
But we do want to hear from you. If you are part of the 3% or the 97%, hit us up, speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. So Michael, roughly in 35 days, what have you been up to?
Oh, man. Well, in the past 35 days, I think the last time we were wrapping up school, and now here we are in full swing of things in the summertime. I always think things are going to be a bit more laid back in the private practice world, but they are not. Very, very busy with tons of documentation, lots of report writing, tons of evals, a lot of work still with the early intervention crowd. So things have been incredibly busy. But I've been trying to enjoy my weekends and enjoy it because I'm a summer guy. I love summer. So trying to go out there and have a good time, but the speech life is calling.
Dude, it never ends. I got a small break from doing home care when I was sick, but that was still, you had to call patients and say, hey, I'm laying on my couch and can't stay awake for more than 2 hours. Please, you're going to get somebody else or nobody this week.
Exactly.
Other than that, I got back healed this week, took the kids bowling, and took the kids to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, not to look for aliens, but to show my son awesome spacecraft and presidential airplanes. So that was pretty cool.
You were looking for aliens.
I was.
You were.
Unironically, they sell alien toys in the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base Museum gift shop.
Okay.
So I don't know if it's ironic or unironically that you can buy a blow-up green alien.
That is definitely unironic.
On today's show, we're going to discuss a little bit about a popular movie showing more inclusion of people with disabilities. Also, have you heard of Inspiro-Porn? We're going to talk about that. And a study exploring the role and needs of classroom teachers in supporting the mental health and well-being of deaf and hard of hearing students. But I thought we'd start off with a fun little article from the Leader, 5 strategies to help families act as a speech and language coach. Michael, you work on the private practice side. How important is the family coach into what you're doing?
Honestly, depending on the individual case, typically when it's in that birth to 5 range, even some early elementary age, as well as the executive functioning that I specialize in, this is crucial. It's absolutely crucial. And this is honestly, with some families, this could be 70 to 80% of the treatment. So I'm working with the student one-on-one. We have the treatment plan where we have all the different interventions that I'm using, but training the family and making sure that they have the appropriate responses, that they stay on schedule, that they are withholding gratification in different areas, whether it's taking the games away, taking the screens away, reading to their kids more often. There are so many different things that families need to do to enhance our therapies. So this is just one of those many things that needs to be touched on, I believe, more at the graduate level. I think we focus a lot on individual disabilities and disorders that we're going to treat. So we focus a lot on treatment and diagnostics, but the ability to interact with parents, coach parents, share information, that is something that you really can only get on the job. And it is such an unbelievably crucial part of our field, because if you're not sharing information with the parents, then treatment is not going to be as strong as you would hope.
Well, I work on the rehab side with adults in the afternoon, and I work in schools during the school year. And I try to explain to parents and family members that just because I work with the adult or the student for 45 minutes a week, that doesn't mean that they're going to get better because of that 45 minutes or 2 hours. There are 24 hours in a day that they can be doing stuff at home. And I try to get that into them saying, hey, just me coming twice a week or once a week isn't going to get you back to where you want to go independently. You got to try some strategies at home. And Susan Sylvia has 5 strategies that we can use with parents to try to help create family coaches. And Michael, I'm going to read these to you, and then you kind of tell me what this would look like, I guess, maybe in your setting. And then I can kind of explain how it would look in my school setting, maybe.
Okay.
First step, she says, is try an episodic care model. It offers a definitive start and stop date of focused and skilled intervention. With continuous ongoing treatment can cause children and families to burn out. So what does that mean in like your private practice realm, like an episodic care model?
It really depends. This is really more of like, you don't really have too much of a definitive stop date. That I think that's typically more of more schools or rehab or insurance-based type of things.
Okay.
But I tend not to discuss stop dates because it's so unknown and it's such a gray area. But really kind of staying in the moment. With parents, usually there's so much going on and there's so much overwhelm and so much anxiety and so much stress. I do a lot to coach them in the moment, in the day. And if they notice a certain amount of things in one day, they were successful. And then we kind of just grow from there.
Okay. I know in the schools, you're right. Like we do have a definitive stop date, and then they get the 2 months to 3 months off during the summertime. But I've been getting better during evaluation time with ETRs, trying to explain to parents that speech therapy in a school is not a lifetime model. And that once we build the skill set, we're going to try to get out and try to teach the parent how to carry over following the dismissal from speech. At least that's the goal.
Yeah.
They say make the family goals a priority. I know in the schools, they love to tell us what their family priority is or their family goal is. And sometimes it matches up. But unfortunately in the schools, my hands are tied by academic goals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that we can that we also have to communicate to them as well. If we have more academic goals or our treatment is not going exactly as they would like, I think we also have to have the skills to explain to them why we're working on what we're working on.
It says find out best routine for practice. So this is basically they're saying help the families find a way to practice their version, I guess, of the home speech and language. I try to do that in schools, but I have a hard time sometimes in schools because if I'm working on a main idea for a academic paper, it's a little bit different than what the parent wants sitting in the home setting.
Yeah, I think this is a very, very big thing, and it's one of the easier things for parents to do. So this is just giving them simple little moments of exposure, simple little moments where they can practice these speech goals. Like for instance, when they're walking somewhere, they can just stop and point to the doorknob and wait for the kid to say open before you open the door, or teach so many kids, so many parents I meet, their kids are still grabbing their hands and dragging them to the refrigerator or the freezer for food. And there's so many different things they can do, looking for a gesture, looking for a sign, looking for an approximation, a word, before they're able to fulfill that goal of giving them the food. And also, one thing I coach my executive function families is sometimes when you're just sitting watching TV or the kids playing a game and you're in the room, just kind of ask them different questions about the game. What is the character thinking? What are they feeling? How does the other person affect them? I mean, a big thing with executive functioning is a lack of if, then, cause, and effect thinking. So any way you can kind of build that cause and effect thinking, whether they're watching a movie, a TV show, or a game, that's just such a quick and easy way to kind of practice that mindset.
It's funny you say that, and I'm going to say something that's probably going to upset you, so I apologize.
All right.
I bought the Bullet while I was sick and bought my son Minecraft for the video game system we have.
Uh-huh.
And the rule is that he can play it when I play it with him, but we have managed to turn it into a lot of language time. This is for the 6-year-old. And we talk about, we got to protect ourselves from pig zombies or something, and creatures that turn into fire and explode stuff. So we've been talking about which kind of material we need, how high to build it. So and why our guy would be scared or anything like that. So I'm trying to turn it into language moments and not let my son's brain get melted by the Minecraft gods.
Oh yeah, you definitely know what you're doing. you definitely know. Screens are fine and technology's fine, but there has to be limits. It can't be, oh, the kid wants to play, give it to him. Kid wants to play, give it to him. And there has got to be some sort of parental authority. There has to be limits. It's as simple as that. You can have the screens, you can have the games, but the kid has to know that this is not a free roaming thing where they play whenever they want.
I did have a what would Michael say moment, and this is when I turned off the game, was we were playing and we were building this big old mansion thing. And you've played the game, right?
Of course.
Okay. So for anyone that hasn't played Minecraft, the easiest way I could explain it, because I just started playing it like 2 weeks ago, is it's Legos meets The Sims.
Okay. That works.
Fair. So we're building this big mansion, and all of a sudden, like, I realized that we were talking the whole time, and then all of a sudden I realized that we might have stopped talking for the last 40 minutes while we were playing, and I just looked at my son and I said, we got to go to bed. Like, in my brain I was saying, oh my God, Michael would be so mad at me that we just spent 40 minutes and I think we said like one word to each other.
Yeah, well, that's gonna happen. That's gonna, especially when you have multiple kids like you do, and when you have 2-month-long sicknesses like you get. Screens are okay.
My brain went into shutdown mode. Getting back to this article, it says we did that one. Focus on child strengths. We do that in the schools, and I tried to send home paperwork to the parents, or at least emails, talking about what they did right and trying to continue to build on the strengths versus looking at the weaknesses. I'm assuming it's probably the same in private practice. Oh,
of course. This is a strengths-based approach. Seems to be the one uniform thing for, in my opinion, and please send us an email or a text if I'm wrong here, but a strengths-based approach seems to be best practice for just about all speech therapy, all populations, all situations, whatever it may be. Always take a strengths-based approach. I do that with every single kid, every single family, bar none. Before I even meet them, I know I'm taking a strengths-based approach, period. So this is a great thing to teach parents, because sometimes parents get a little caught up on what their kids aren't doing or comparing their kid to other parents' kids and things like that. So getting them to recognize what their kid is doing, how their kid is unique, how they're important, what they're doing that's good. I think it's our job to express that to them. It doesn't have to all be, oh, your kid's not talking enough or they're not functioning well. Mm-hmm. It can be, you know what, he's very mature, he's very kind. There's so many different things that makes a kid great. And the last step that Susanna Sylvia mentions in this article is to take advantage of your phone's camera. And this is something that I never even think about doing, but she says basically take pictures of the activities, videotape yourself doing an activity, and then invite the parents to videotape and take pictures and send them to you. And then you can help them critique or fix, or I guess help implement better strategies at home. I've never done that in the schools, and I feel like if I take one thing away from the article, this is something that I might have my parents start doing. Oh yeah. I recommend this a lot for parents, specifically for kids who really need that visual feedback. So a lot of kids who are working on, whether it be an R, this is more of like articulation and apraxia for me. So if a kid is working on like the T8 sound or R or TDN, or they have a lisp, so they're working on the S's and the Z's and things like that, to always give them to use that reverse camera so they're looking directly. It's the same thing as using a mirror in therapy. So I see what you're doing there. Yeah, the exact same thing. So all those therapies where a mirror is a necessity, you can teach parents, just use your phone. Use your phone, and it's instantly motivating for the kid, and they're able to get that visual feedback and look directly at their mouth as they're practicing their sounds. I have to laugh. Like, I remember when I first came into the field, I was given this 3-foot tall, 2-foot wide folding mirror that I could take everywhere. And I put that on the shelf of my desk
opened up my iPad's camera, and I have never used a real mirror since, because it's so much easier and quicker and easier to carry a small iPad than a giant mirror in my bag.
Yep, there you go.
We want to hear from you. How are you helping make your family speech and language coaches? Head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com, or email us speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com, or text us 614-681-1798, or tell Michael what you're doing on Instagram. Hashtag SSPod.
Yes, sir.
That is still a thing. And also on Twitter, it's Speech Science PC. Our next article is coming out of the Language, Speech, and Hearing Services in Schools journal off of the ASHA Wire. It's a qualitative exploration of the role and needs of classroom teachers in supporting the mental health and well-being of deaf and hard of hearing children. We're not going to go into the complete details, but we'll discuss the conclusion. I work in schools, and this is not a big surprise to me, because I think that the teacher who's in the classroom 7 hours a day is going to be the biggest support system for any of our kids with special education.
100%. My main takeaway from this article is that this is just it's a very small sample size. It's very specific. It's made very specific for the deaf and hard of hearing kids. But this is just a small microcosm of the bigger issue here. And this is the rise of awareness of mental health, especially in school-age children. So this article touches on those the population of deaf and hard of hearing, but the role that teachers play in observing kids and recognizing the signs of any sort of mental health in terms of social isolation, lack of appetite, falling asleep, things like that, whatever it may be. For them to be more aware of mental health issues with their students is crucial. It's absolutely crucial. And I think we're going to see more and more of this as the years go on, because we're finally starting to give mental health its due. It's no longer, oh, this kid is weak or this kid is lazy. We're really starting to look more at mental health. And I think we're still in the infancy stages of this, because I do think the majority of people will still instantly think, oh, this kid is just lazy or weak or unmotivated or socially isolated or awkward, whatever it may be. But this is classroom teachers, chronically underpaid, overworked. But here's another thing that they can do that can save a lot of lives.
And if you work with students that are hard of hearing or deaf, this would be the article that you need to take into your principals, because the study suggests that the classroom resources are needed and teacher professional develop are needed to enhance the classroom teacher's understanding of how to support the mental health and well-being of deaf and hard of hearing students. Michael, you hit it right on the head. Like, we've got students that retreat into themselves, and if our staff doesn't know what to look for, our students could be in trouble down the line.
100%. So this is something that I think is going to become, hopefully become more of a mandatory training, something to kind of be aware of. And also, outside of the classroom teachers, there needs to be more counselors at schools. There needs to be more just overall entire school-wide trainings. This is not just classroom teachers. I think they do have enough on their plate, but there's so many other people within that school building who can identify these issues as well.
I don't remember where I was watching it this weekend. It was either like on a Facebook news site or one of those YouTube videos that kind of pop up, but it was a news story talking about a student who was recognizing their teacher. It was a student with autism who was recognizing their teacher because they identified in him like the initial thoughts for suicide. And the teacher intervened and got the kid the help he needed, and he was graduating, and he recognized her, and there were tears. And I really wish I could find the link, because it was such a sweet little story about the kid talking about where he was in a dark place and the teacher that got him out of it and helped him graduate. So
nice.
But again, I wish I could find the link, but it was one of those things where you're laying on the couch surfing one of the many Reddit, YouTube, or Facebook sites, and you're like, oh, look, here's a cool video. So,
okay. Yeah.
We want to hear from you. Tell us what you are doing to help with the mental health of students in your area of expertise. Head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com, or email us speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com, or give us a phone call or text at 614-681-1798. Coming back after the break, we're going to talk about which Disney movie is showing more inclusion for students with disabilities, and Inspiro-Porn. Kind of like what we just talked about, but a little bit different. You're listening to Speech Science.
Do you have an idea for a product or book? Or are you ready to go beyond in-service presentations? Well, how do you get started? And what if you don't have any business experience at all? Well, I have some great news for you. I'm Mei-Ling Chan, and I'm getting the nitty-gritty stories from parents, teachers, therapists, advocates, and people with disabilities who have created successful businesses, and they're sharing their intimate stories with you. Listen to us on the Exceptional Leaders podcast and fast-track creating and building and sharing your idea with the world so that you can help more people.
Welcome back to Speech Science, episode 83. I almost said 82. It's been way too long since we did this. I'm Matt Hott, joined, as always, by the dulcet tones of Michael McLeod.
What's up, buddy?
And if you are wondering where our female compatriot is, she is taking care of a few things on her home side, so we are putting together an episode, and we hope we do Michelle proud, sans Michelle this week.
Yes, absolutely. Michelle has a much more important job than being an SLP, and that's called being a mother.
Yeah, and hopefully we do her proud, and she's not embarrassed to come back. So
that could happen. That could happen. It's a legitimate fear.
This is what happens when you leave the boys in charge. Anywho,
that's right.
All right. So in a little bit, we're going to talk about a Disney movie, but right now I want to talk about a topic that I heard for the first time about a week ago called Inspiro-Porn, it's inspirational porn. What it is when somebody snaps a picture of somebody doing something good and then shares it and says, look how good this person is. It could be a video of a coach putting in a student with autism and they score 5 baskets in a row and everyone says, look how awesome this moment is. It could be the football player with Down syndrome where they are running the touchdown, 100-yard touchdown, and the other team is falling down to fake tackle the football player. There is an article. This one is actually a blog posted by Erin, a Southern girl who is a graduate student at the University of Kentucky. And she says that one of the most difficult things that those of us with disabilities face is most any situation is the fact that the media often portrays any sort of challenge as heroic. The term used by individuals with disabilities is Inspiro-Porn, meaning that the stories and other portrayals are usually framed with the notion that people with disabilities and the stories involving us are newsworthy. They're, quote, magical or something similar. And Mike, we were talking in break. You just saw one last week, right?
This was not last. This was like probably two or 3 years ago.
Oh, was that how long ago?
It was a Florida State wide receiver. His name was Travis Rudolph. He sat with a young boy with autism with red hair. I remember the picture because it became viral. And the only reason I know this so well was, of course, number one, the picture was amazing. And then the player ended up getting drafted by the Giants later. So it's, it was just such an awesome picture. And I was so happy when the Giants got him, and he was obviously such a stand-up dude. And the picture was truly inspirational to so many people, and it got passed around for all the right reasons. So I know I loved it. I thought it was freaking amazing. I'm obviously a speech pathologist who works with these populations, but I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
So I think the term Inspiro-Porn or whatever we want to call this, I think it's more related to the media spreading it around and how we spread it on Facebook.
That makes sense.
Because, I mean, I get it. Like, if the football player is sitting, you know, if the star quarterback is sitting with the socially outcast students that might be some of our kids with autism and doing it only to get the social media likes, I'm totally against that. I don't like that. But I coach a high school sport. Most of my students, I think all my students, are typical students. But we've bowled against other teams who have put students in with disabilities if we're winning by a lot or losing by a lot. And I never took it as a hand-me-down or, wow, this is something magical that the student is doing. I took it as, like, the coach was recognizing one of the players that was good enough to be on his team. But I could see how, if you're at home with a disability and they show the same clip of the football player dodging football people falling down, how that could be very aggravating, that it says, look at this person with a disability. Look how great they worked by just getting on the field.
Yeah. I think, you know, to be fair, the individuals in those videos always seem to be smiling and jumping and just having a great time, even though, you know, it's us sitting there watching the videos and it's, you know, you can see like all the other players are purposefully falling and they're doing it just for them. You know, it's the individual in the video seems to be enjoying it, but I could certainly see the other flip of the coin where people are seeing this and seeing, you know, this is not inspirational. Why are they doing this? They're going out of their way to single this person out. The way I've always looked at it is, you know, here are these typical individuals going out of their way to do something kind for a special needs person. Like, for instance, that wide receiver who sat with the boy at lunch, there was the story that the boy was just sitting by himself for months and months and months. And then here comes this star football player and he sits with them. And I I like to believe that it opens up other people's minds when they see that. And people, I'm sure people thought to themselves, oh, I know someone who sits by themselves. I know someone who doesn't have a lot of friends. Maybe I can go talk to them. So if it does that, if it helps one socially isolated person be less socially isolated, I see some positive out of it. There's always going to be a grass is always greener approach. There's some people not being happy with it or whatever. But I think there's a lot of positivity that can come from it. But of course, I'm not in the population who's allowed to speak their mind about this. They are. So
I mean, it goes back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, like what you just said, where we talked about the terminology. Is it an autistic person or a person with autism?
Exactly.
You're right on there. I Googled Inspiro-Porn, and it actually, there are a couple groups that are pretty happy with the show Speechless. It just recently was canceled on ABC, but they said that they avoided Inspiro-Porn. Did you ever watch Speechless?
I have not.
It is hilarious because, and kind of looking through this little article from the Hollywood Reporter on Speechless, avoiding Inspiro-Porn, because they didn't make it seem like JJ, or I think his name was JJ, who was the student in the wheelchair, wasn't like, oh my gosh, everything he is doing is such a miracle. It was more, he's just the big brother that happens to have a disability.
Okay.
One of the funniest things I've ever seen on TV is the lead character is in a wheelchair and he points to the words he wants to say. And there was this guy bullying his younger brother. And his younger brother had to read the words that his brother was pointing out. And his brother in the wheelchair was yelling at the bully through the voice of his younger brother. And his younger brother was mortified because he was afraid he was going to get beaten up by this bully because of the way his brother was yelling at him.
Okay. All right.
So it wasn't like, here's the student with disability being a miracle worker. It was, here's just him being a big brother, but it creates other situations for the younger brother.
Sounds entertaining.
But I don't know, man. Like, this Inspiro-Porn is blowing up, and I'm kind of redirecting on how I share things on Facebook. I'm kind of starting to avoid resharing some of these links, I guess.
No, you can share whatever you want. People can put that little sad face if they need to.
Well, that's fair.
and get all upset, but you do what you need to do.
That's Michael McLeod at michael@speechsciencepodcast.com.
You do your thing, man. You do your thing. Don't be affected by Inspiro-Porn hate.
I'm so affected by everything I read these days. We want to know, how are you handling that? Head over to our website, speechsciencepodcast.com, and you can email us speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. Our last story is a positive story about a movie that has come out about a week and a half ago, and I really need to see it because it is the 4th chapter in my childhood/realistic life, Toy Story. Have you seen this, Michael? Out of ASHA, they're saying there's a cochlear implant child in Toy Story.
I saw a picture of it. I saw from one of the many SLP Facebook groups I'm a part of. I saw someone sharing it and posting it. I think it's great. I don't know how long this child was on the screen for. I don't know if it was acknowledged that they have that or what else was presented, but the fact that Disney thought to throw that in there, that's something I will always applaud.
What I love the most about it is that it wasn't brought up by Disney. It wasn't brought up by any of the Pixar people. It wasn't showcased. It was just, here's a student in the background that if you are a student with a cochlear implant or a child with a cochlear implant, you might see somebody on screen and go, yep, that could be me. And that's about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
And I feel like that's how we need to start looking at inclusion in movies.
Yep.
Is that it shouldn't be, because I think I would have a major groan moment. And I haven't seen this movie yet because our house has been Plague City for the last month. But I think I will have a major groan moment if the toys have to fix her cochlear implant or something.
Yeah, that'd be a bit much. I don't think they're qualified.
Right, but you know what I'm saying? Like, oh my gosh, we got to get her batteries or something. And it's like, no, just let her be a character. There was something do you ever watch The Walking Dead?
No.
And well, okay. But one of the, I guess, bad guys was wheelchair bound.
Okay.
And it wasn't like a big conclusion. It was just kind of like, yep, he's in a wheelchair and a truck driver, and that's about it. Like, there was no like, oh my gosh, how do we get this going one way or the other? Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Well, like, oh, you're in a wheelchair, we got to make a big deal out of it. It was just more like, nope, he's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And it was actually Daryl Mitchell, who was in Galaxy Quest. Did you ever see Galaxy Quest?
With Tim Allen?
Yes.
Of course.
So he played Tommy Webber, the little kid that grew up driving the spaceship.
Yep.
He was in an accident back in 2001. He was paralyzed from the waist down in a motorcycle accident.
Wow.
So he's still acting, but now he acts in a wheelchair. And there was no there were a couple scenes where he just had to attach his wheelchair to the front of the truck and get into the truck and that kind of stuff. But it wasn't a big deal. And that's what I'm hoping with the cochlear implant, that it's just a moment in the movie. And I would love to see more moments in movies where there's sign language or disability or something.
Yeah. It's for it to be in Toy Story, which is such a popular movie, millions and millions of people are going to see it, and to throw this out there. But the only question I have is how many people outside of the speech and audiology community even recognize that this child was in the movie.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It says that this is also part of the Ruderman white paper on the challenge to create more authentic disability casting and representation on TV, or in short, the Ruderman TV challenge. It's that the 20% of the U.S. population has a disability. Less than 2% of all TV characters have a disability. So,
okay,
there you go.
Not bad.
We want to hear from you. What have you seen on TV with a character and a disability? Email us, speechsciencepodcast@gmail.com. Hit us up on the Twitters, Speech Science PC, on Instagram, SSPod, or text us 614-681-1798. Michael, I am excited over the next couple of weeks because I finally have my summer back, and I'm going to get my son maybe off of training wheels. And the youngest one, he's turning 3 in October, so we got to get him potty trained and talking in complete sentences like a scholar. That is what I've got on my table. What have you got on your table?
Pretty much just continuing the summer routine. Got a lot of evals, a lot of report writing, a lot of work and collaboration with other professionals within my area. So pretty much just prepping for September, as I feel like I'm always doing. But yeah, it's so far it's been a great summer, and I'm hoping that it continues.
Dude, I am not looking forward to September because I've got to get my new office set up in August.
Oh boy!
Because I changed schools and had a major job change this year. So,
well, it's going to be a great year.
I hope so. Coming up on the next couple of weeks for interviews, I'm excited because we will be airing the hippotherapy interview that Michelle did a couple weeks ago. I guess a couple months now ago. The interview with the Arizona school superintendent will be dropping. Also, we'll be talking to a dad who had enough of his daughter being nonverbal and created his own communication app. Those interviews are coming up over the next couple of weeks over here on Speech Science. So I'm pretty excited by that, Mike.
Speech Science sounds like one of the best podcasts there is.
Hey, did you see? I put a link and maybe I shared it. We are in the top 25 speech and language pathology podcasts for 2019.
There's over 25 SLP podcasts.
I did not know that either, but there are, and we'll put a link to that as well. Nice. We are up there with Teach Me to Talk, our friend Teresa Richard over at Swallow Your Pride. We got First Bite, SLP's Wine and Cheese, Chris and Rachel over at Talking with Tech. There's a Speech Space podcast, the SLP Happy Hour, True Confessions, and then us at number 9, the Speech Science Podcast.
Okay. All right.
Hey, man, I'm happy for us. Like, that is a step in the right direction. We have done something right.
Where is this ranking?
It is over on somebody's blog.
So it's the unofficial rankings.
Unofficial ranking.
Yep. Okay. I don't know where we're going to rank without Michelle, though.
Well, they said they used it based off of using web search and social metrics, subscribers, and audio quality. So,
well, we kick ass in all those categories.
We do okay in audio quality. Everything else we're just scraping by. But we love you guys.
Right. We want you. Where it's at. That's right. All about the frequency, the speech banana.
Yeah, no, it's not the content. It is just the quality of the audio.
But now the quality. when I say quality pop podcast, I'm talking about the audio.
Yeah, not what we say. No, what is quality though is those of you that listen to us. We love you. We want to hear from you. Do all of those avenues and make sure you rate and review us. That helps us find advertisers. Podcasting is cheap, but it still costs a little bit, and more advertisers would help us cover those costs. Humble brag. Humble beg, I guess I should say.
Humble beg, yes.
Humble beg. Oh, all right. Well, I should do our ending now. Let me pull this up real quick. I'm going to edit that out real quick. 3, 2, 1. As always, our intro music is Please Listen Carefully by Jazar. It's licensed under an attribution and share alike license. Our bump music is the County Fair Rock, copyright of John Deku. You can find all his music at soundcloud.com/dirtdogmusic. And our closing music, which is playing right now, it's The Slow Burn by Kevin MacLeod. I reached out to the other Kevin MacLeod to find out if this was the SLP Kevin MacLeod.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. But It's Kevin MacLeod. It's licensed under a Creative Commons and Attribution license. In the immortal words of Janice Wright, be a willow and not an oak in the storm of life. The oak looks strong, but the first wind will tear the oak down. The willow will bend over and return to form. For Michael MacLeod, the absent Michelle Wintering, I'm Matt Hott. Until next week, so long, everybody.
So long.
This has been an Exceptional Podcast Network production. Speech Science is edited and produced by MWH Production. Please follow Speech Science on Twitter at SpeechSciencePC and like our page on Facebook. For more original podcasts, please visit exceptionaled.com and rate and subscribe to our podcast anywhere you get your podcasts.